Welcome, everyone, to Canucks This Week, and welcome to Patrick Johnston, Canucks columnist extraordinaire. Um, Changes in the offing there. So we are U.S. Thanksgiving. We talk about this a lot. We're not going to this. We're recording this before the Buffalo game, so let's be clear. But the Canucks do sit in a playoff spot, 1 point ahead of the juggernaut and everyone's favorite Stanley Cup pick, Edmonton Oilers, with a game in hand on the Oilers. So, what are the Canucks, Patrick, at this U.S. Thanksgiving mark? Are they a playoff team? There seems to be a little bit of angst in Canuck land over the unevenness of their performances this year. Yet here they sit in a playoff spot ahead of the Oilers.
Uh, I mean, I put this fact out, I think, after the game on Wednesday, that this is a team that has given up the first goal in, I think, is it 12 of 21 games this year? And last year, over the entire season, they gave up the first goal just 29 times. Um, just a team that's not starting well. I mean, Rick Tocchet's not wrong. They haven't started well. He has been trying to take the blame for that. He needs to find a way forward with that. A team that's chased the game too much. And, you know, oddly enough, now the challenge is because of the fact that they are not, they don't have their full lineup. They haven't had their full lineup all year at one point or another. I mean, Elias Pettersson is producing. He's still not 100%, I don't think, but he's producing. Quinn Hughes obviously playing great, but, no JT Miller. Now you're missing Phil Pronek. Like, Thatcher Demko hasn't played yet. Like, they're a team that kind of managed to battle on, and they're in the playoff spot, and I think they're a battling team, like, for better or worse, even if they haven't started well on the whole, they mostly battled. There have been some bad nights, absolutely. But look at Wednesday. They were not good. They put themselves in a pickle, and they fought their way back. But for a bad goal off the rush, given up by Archer Shilovs, that would have been a 4-4 game going in overtime. So, as a group, they've been battling. Maybe I'm putting a bit of spin there, I suppose, but I think at their core, they haven't been who they believe they want to be. They believe they are last year's team. They obviously have some new elements. They obviously need to add another. They definitely need to add another defenseman now, but they haven't played up to potential. And I think that they're battling, but not haven't played up to potential, I guess, is who they are.
When you look at the team, and I know you've been banging that drum all year that they were, already playing Tetris with the salary cap to some extent, with an eye to acquiring defensive help down the road. But look, at my heart, I think most people who have watched more than one of these videos understand that, I'm a soccer guy at heart. I know goal differential is a much bigger soccer stat than a hockey stat. I look at the Canucks, they are even on goal differential.
Yeah.
67 for, 67 against. And I think that's when you look at, first of all, they've scored 20 fewer goals than Vegas. But their goals against isn't great, but it's not terrible when you look at some of the other teams around them. Certainly, you look at the Oilers, this offensive juggernaut. They've scored more goals than the Oilers and playing one fewer game, and they've given up fewer goals than the Oilers. But is there hope that once Demko comes back, that's going to solve that? And the reason I ask is, how risky would you be with giving away one of your either futures or offensive pieces for defensive help when you know that you will most likely get a goaltender back who can maybe really boost those numbers?
Well, on the first part of that question, really, Demko coming in presumably it's not just the addition; it's the subtraction of an unstartable goalie. Archer Shilovs, as unfortunate as it is, the truth is he is unstartable at this point. He has struggled that badly, and I just don't know if we'll see him in the Canucks net again at this point. And presumably Demko comes back and is able to play, and if he is able to play, and listen, nothing is certain until it happens in hockey, especially. But he comes in, he plays well. You've got a great goalie in him. You've got a great goalie, backup goalie in Kevin Lankinen. You are getting a consistent start every night. There's no question mark, and I think there's a confidence element that bleeds into the team as well. The doubt that may be there now next time you were to try putting Archer Shelovs in the net, you simply aren't going to have that. In terms of looking for a defenseman, it's been clear to me for a while that if things go as well as they think they're going to go for the Canucks, and they are in the sort of top 10 of the league, they are perfectly happy to trade. They would be perfectly happy to trade their first round pick. Like that to me has been something obvious to me for ages, because they are in that spot where they're like, we have to optimize what we have right now. We can't sit around and wait for guys. They're not in a rebuild anymore. Like, they just aren't. They're in we're going to try to win, and they think they're that close. So there's one. Two, what other pieces do you have? Well, I mean, Niels Höglander's not going to bring anybody in because he's not doing anything right now. He is in the doghouse. Nobody's trading premium items for a play in the doghouse. But the Canucks could trade a prospect. I mean, I would not be shocked if they were willing to part with a guy like. I mean, they do like Tom Wielander a lot. But Wielander is the kind of guy, the kind of value that you need to be talking about. I mean, that would be a big home run swing. You're taking a swing at someone big. Obviously there's been a lot of chat about Marcus Pettersson, but I think that they would like to do better than Marcus Pettersson. Well, if you're going to do better than Marcus Pettersson, you are trading a top end prospect and your first round pick at least. So, that's just where they're at. This is the team that they're trying to build. They're trying to build a team that's going to be a contender this year, would hopefully be a contender next year, though of course they've got to deal with the Brock Besser question before that. Then you have the Demko question coming up after that. But you are trying to win now. That is the task. And if that means you're trading a first round pick and a top end prospect, and you believe the value is there, it's going to happen. It's just that is how things go. You can't try to play both ends of the coin. It just doesn't work.
It's a bit of a scary proposition, seeing as they had given up so many first round picks.
Yeah, absolutely. And second round picks, right? Like, you're not wrong. Like, there is not a lot in the cupboard. Like that must not be ignored.
And that's okay if you make the right moves and you can actually win a cup, right? But this is what people are craving. It's like, if this doesn't work, right? Like, if you're 5 years from now, you never got really past over that speed bump, you're gonna have to really, really, really hit free agency in order to have a competitive team in that era, when you're still paying Pettersson, still paying Hughes. But let's throw that out. I think maybe the Canucks have been too guilty in their 54 years of, or what are we at? No, 50. Where were we at now? Like, we're 58 years. Well, but whatever it is.
55.
Yeah, 55. You're right.
There's a missing season, so
Anyway. No, but in the fact that they've never landed a cup, you can't always plan on futures, and so I think we've seen much better philosophy for this team. It's just that giving up on one and or both of those prospects. But if that's going to get you over the hump, I think that makes sense. Let's talk about what this team has, though. Obviously, sort of because of the nature of the absence, a little bit of radio silence around JT Miller. But you talk about Demko coming back, about, Besser has come back. Where do you see this team in a month in terms of its health?
That's a great question. I mean, if Filip Hronek has a separated shoulder, which is I believe the concern. Canucks aren't saying that. And Friday morning, Rick Tocchet basically just saying, well, he needs to see a couple people. Well, presumably among those people would be an orthopedic surgeon, because there's a joint question here. If he doesn't need surgery, but it's a shoulder, some kind of shoulder issue, separation, that's 4 to 6 weeks, right? So a month from now, he's probably still out. Miller, as far as we know, but it's very unclear. No one is saying anything at this point. The noise behind the scenes is he won't be playing when the Canucks come back next week. I have not been able to get an answer one way or another out of that. I have had some dismissal of some of that reporting, but I haven't been able to pin it down one way or another.
And understandably, the nature of the injury
Yeah,
is that
I mean, from what we can gather, there's a sort of a mental element to this, personal element to it, beyond just whatever he might be dealing with physically, which is the priority. Because the Canucks could have easily just put him on IR and said he's dealing with this, and that's how long he's going to be out for.
exactly, yeah,
But they went a different route, so it is clearly not just an injury. Like, it's not just a physical injury. Like, there is something going on beyond. So that's indeterminate. I think the Canucks were hopeful. One of the things I think the Canucks were hopeful that that this would only take a few weeks and he would be good to go, but they don't know. So that's a question mark. I can't say one way or another whether there is an element of or whether he'll be back, right? Like, that's your lineup. Will this team have a new defenseman in it? Well, last year they traded for Nikita Zadorov at basically this time. I don't get the sense there's a trade in the offing. I mean, obviously David Jiricek's name is out there. I don't think the Canucks are in that, really. It sounds like they don't have enough to match. Someone told me yesterday Pittsburgh, then someone else told me Minnesota might be the front runners. Certainly not the Canucks. I haven't really dug deeply into what these various teams have to offer. But, young defenseman who could move the puck, definitely play on your second pair. I mean, that's exactly what the Canucks would like. And that's the kind of trade, again, to go back to your previous question, that's the kind of trade you make if you're willing. If you want to bring a young defenseman in, you're going to have to pay with first round, and you're going to have to pay with the top end prospect. But that's that's getting yourself moving closer to where you want to be right now versus where you want to be 4 years from now. They're going to be in I think realistically, a pretty similar spot. Maybe they have a defenseman back. Derek Forbort apparently skating. I mean, Derek Forbort is not going to move the dial, but he's a guy at least.
Well, he might, but not in the way you're hoping.
He's a competent NHL defenseman. I think him and Eric Brandstrom would actually be a very interesting second pair. All of a sudden, you're talking about something, but you'd still like to do better, right? Like, the Canucks need to upgrade on defense. I'm not sure they'll have done that by Christmas. So I think this roster is going to be pretty similar to where they are right
now. Coming home again. Obviously, this team has been very good on the road. Coming home, are you? I know it's still really a small sample size. Like, we talk about this mark in the season. Anything in your head about, like, this home versus road success, and is it just bad luck? What they've done, like, because this is the big homestand, big road trip, big homestand coming up. Right. Would you expect them to show a little more spark and advantage at home? I mean, certainly the fans are up for it.
You'd think so. I don't know. It's been very strange. I don't know. I don't think I don't know if there's a simple explanation. Because they started badly in Pittsburgh, right? They battled their way to a win in Boston. I think they actually, it was not a terribly exciting offensive effort, but defensively they were actually pretty sound. Like, they played a lot in their own end, but they didn't give a lot away. Yeah. To me, and the through line, I suppose, between those two games is, a occasionally sputtering offense. Obviously, they're missing JT Miller. Like, Miller's struggles might be the whole story, that he just has not been healthy enough to move the meter, and because Pettersson took a while to get moving, that's why they haven't won at home. I mean, that 6-game homestand was not good. So, was that about a team that's just not firing as they should? Was that about a team that's at odds and sods? I mean, Jake DeBrusk seems to finally found his way. I know the Canucks wanted a little more, I don't know, physical play is, but the way they want to play, Kiefer Sherwood clearly has figured it out immediately. It's right to his wheelhouse, which is get on the guy, get in the hands, get on the players, take their space away. Danton Heinen, who's a smart hockey player, still needs to show a little more in that regard. Like that it's been an uneven execution of everything. And so whether it's just that's how those home games have lined up, and the bad games have just happened to be coincidentally at home, and the good games have happened to be coincidentally on the road. I mean, I haven't looked quite that closely at the difference in strength of schedule, but I know that the road schedule has mostly not been very tough, right? The home schedule hasn't been terribly tough either. They lost the New York Rangers, who were falling apart, right? So I like they are. overall, I just go back to the fact they keep giving up first goals. In general, they have been a
Yeah.
perplexing question on the season. They have not started well, and you just nailed it. Like they're 50-50 in goals for and against, right? Like that's
It's
fine, but that's
yeah.
not leading the league. Like that's
I
not who
mean,
they were last
but
year.
I guess what I'm hinting at is I maybe being glass half full. We obviously have to wait and see with Hronek's injury. You get Demko back, you get Miller back. Pettersson's shown signs of life. Hughes is constant. Besser's healthy. I mean, 67 goals for in 21 games. It's not egregious in terms of if you look at, I mean, they're way behind, obviously, Winnipeg in the West and way behind Vegas. The weird one is Colorado, and Colorado have scored 76 goals. They've given up 84. Like, are you
Yeah,
kidding me? Like, how the
yeah.
hell are anyway? I know goal blowouts are going to skew that one way or the other. I'm just looking at it and going, they're not in a terrible position offensively, and they don't have their guys going great guns yet. If their guys get going great guns, scoring goals, and they get their number one goaltender back, I don't know. I think where they're sitting right now is sitting. It's quite pretty.
Yeah, like the Western Conference in general, but the Pacific Division specifically, like no one is really. I mean, I think Vegas is kind of pulling itself, is separating itself a little bit. But
Which is
Edmonton,
weird after all their off-season moves, right? But this
great
is what
coach.
Vegas has done ever since they've been in the league.
I will forever tell you about Bruce Cassidy and how he should have won 4 Jack Adamses by now, but that's not how Jack Adams gets handed out. So who has the most surprising results in the season, right? Rick Tocchet, I think, was probably the deserved winner last year. He was the coach of the year, but Bruce Cassidy, I think, just deserved more credit, especially when he was in Boston. Listen, he had a great lineup, but like he stuck around, and we're seeing him. Just as a side note, we were talking about Vanni Sartini with the Whitecaps, right? Like I listen. I had a conversation where basically I think the Whitecaps came to the conclusion that it was like he was fun and I enjoyed him. And I think it was there was sort of an entertaining kind of selling point there, but there's only so many times you can be kind of goofy and loud and silly as a coach, right? Like the players have to buy into what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that is the side point in any coach's experience. And I think is the key to success for a guy like Cassidy, like, I mean, in many ways, Bruce Boudreau was this in Washington, especially when he started. There's a maintenance, there's a level that you can maintain of connection with your players, and at a certain point, but it runs out. It runs out for everybody. Some coaches it runs out earlier than others. The Vegas for me is that's the story here. I mean, I guess you look around the Western Conference, there are some good, like Peter Boer is a similar guy. Like he's had results, or he's had success with his players because he can command their attention. Rick Tocchet, I think, is that guy. But anyway, to the point on the playoff race, like nobody's really pulling ahead. The Pacific Division is very tight because nobody is racing away. Everyone's kind of in that middle, that mushy middle. The Canucks are in that mushy middle. They want to think that they can pull away from this, but obviously they're going to have to battle their way right now because they're missing certainly 3 key players, because we can keep mentioning Demko. They're but you're right. Like they're not in a terrible spot given everything. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah, it's my feeling around this team. There's a lot of fan angst, and I think that's because of specific performances, but they're actually in a pretty good spot. All right, we'll wrap this up shortly, but I did want to ask you, I'm going to avoid the whole nomenclature argument and say with 25% of the season gone, Patrick.
It's the quarter mark, not the quarter full.
Give me 3 players that have impressed you.
On the Vancouver Canucks, Kiefer Sherwood.
No, on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Of course, the Canucks.
Kiefer Sherwood, one, Kevin Lankinen, and Quinn Hughes. I mean, it's how do you not be impressed by Quinn Hughes? I was going to honorable mention to Eric Brandstrom, but Quinn Hughes.
Okay, give me.
Sherwood's been fantastic. Like Sherwood's just been everything.
Yeah.
Like when they signed him, I said, "Oh, I like this signing." Like I didn't think he'd be a guy that's contending to actually be an effective winger for Elias Pettersson. And let's be clear, Sherwood is shooting at an incredible rate. Like he is not going to keep scoring all these goals, But
Dollywall raves about him every game.
Dollywall is just all
maybe,
over this
maybe
guy.
he knows his agent or something. I don't know. It's just,
but he's played really well, and
he
I
has
think
played very well
on that line with him and Pedersen and DeBrusque. I think the fit is there. Even if he's not going to be bagging the goals, he's the guy that's going to go there and get the puck. And there's a drive and a precision to his game that's really impressed me. And Kevin Lankin. I mean, I wrote this yesterday. Where would they be without Kevin Lankin? Let's be clear. They would be nowhere. This would be a disaster. We wouldn't be having the conversation we just had, which is that they're in a decent spot despite everything. Kevin Lankinen has had a couple bad starts, but otherwise he's been fantastic.
Stroke, that signing.
Absolute genius. I mean, and fortune, like good fortune. Like realistically, it makes no sense that he was unsigned going into training camp. Like this is a guy that had 2 good solid seasons as a backup in Nashville. And the Canucks essentially signed him for league minimum. I mean, they held their ground because, believe me, Lankinen's camp knew how vulnerable the Canucks were feeling about everything. They knew that, and in the end, the Canucks still won. So credit to Patrick Allvin on that one.
3 players who need improvement second half of the season.
Well, Carson Soucy, I think, is the one.
75% of the season. Sorry, this
Carson
is really
Soucy,
messing up since you brought it up last week.
I know. So, Carson Soucy, for sure. He was so solid last year as kind of the rock on the second pair, and he has not been good enough. I mean, it's a weird thing to say Thatcher Demko, but they need him to be who he needs.
They do,
right? Like he hasn't played at all, so this isn't saying he hasn't been good enough. It's simply saying they need him to be exact. They need him to improve to be the guy which right now he's 0. They need him to be the 100 that he normally is. And third, who's my third pick? I mean, needs improvement. I mean, obviously JT Miller, I guess, when he comes back. I mean, it's probably that. Like JT Miller just has not played well. You come back. You hope he comes back
healthy.
Come back healthy, feeling fired up, ready to go, feeling good about life, ready to play, beat the other guy because he wasn't doing that. And that was clear. So beat the guy on the other side. That's
okay. Lastly, Detroit and Minnesota to finish the road trip, and then Columbus at home next Friday. How do you see that going for the Canucks?
So 2-1. So 3 games. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
2-1. Yeah.
Yeah. Although we will probably record before that Columbus game, but we'll throw it in there anyway.
We'll say 2-1. Yeah.
Excellent stuff, Patrick. Thank you. Thanks for everyone for listening. We had some scheduling issues last week, so we went a little bit longer this week. Go to theprovince.com for Patrick's analysis on the Canucks, along with Ben Kuzma, Steve Ewan, JJ Adams, all our content there, vancouversun.com as well. Sign up for our newsletters. You'll get it all delivered to your inbox. Thanks, everyone, and we will talk to you next week.